Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 8 of The Dive. We have a very special guest, the Vault Boy himself.
It's like you were going to introduce me on
stole
this
your
time.
thunder, Phreak.
And you're like, nope.
Goldenglue.
It's Azael. Welcome to The Dive, buddy.
That was hilarious.
How's it going, Goldenglue? Well, thank you for joining us on this early morning. This might be the earliest dive that we've done.
If you take the the time change into account, yes.
Yeah, otherwise I think it's the exact same call time as last week with an arrow. I know because I had to make the call time.
Goldenglue said this is the time he normally wakes up, but usually he's pounding pre-workout. He's getting woken up for the gym.
Yeah.
I didn't have any today, and I was kind of regretting it. I could be really hulking out right now, but instead I'm just normal me. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get it going. Ranked reset is coming in. People have been asking for it nonstop. So what they're doing is they're going to reset everyone who's above Masters to 0 LP Masters. And if you were in Diamond, you go down one division. And they're also removing positional queue. So the Mad Lads, they did it.
Whoa.
I honestly, I cannot believe it.
Reset rank.
I wanna quickly correct you, even though I know you're not trying to be misleading. They're not getting rid of positional queue. They're getting rid of positional ranked. Like you can still queue as mid and bot.
I think everyone knew that, Phreak.
Just in case.
Okay.
Like Reddit is not always the brightest.
It's good to be clear.
Yeah. And actually, point of clarification I think is really interesting. And I'll probably still be a fill-man because of it. Is they're still going to match make you, as far as I can understand, based on what you're queuing as. Like if you're a worse top laner than mid laner and you get put as top, the game will understand that and give you an easier game. But there is only one LP. There is only one rank for you. So you can still get like the pros and cons of actually playing an off roll.
I see. That's pretty cool.
As soon as you started talking about that, I started thinking about, can I game the system by getting easier games, queuing as something else, and then asking to trade people to jungle?
No.
Or do they still have that identifier?
They're still going to have the identifier. Where you're going to be like, oh, okay, you got an easy game, but you're actually a Diamond 1 jungler, so minus 30 plus 10.
Okay.
I see. I honestly, I was so surprised. Like when the whole community was basically begging for reset ranked, and I thought everyone was just really mad and frustrated. Everyone had high elo.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't actually know if resetting ranked would be a good idea. Like in my head, it was like a hard reset. It was like a hard reset, right? That's what I thought of it when I was thinking of ranked reset. I thought everyone was just really angry and they thought that would solve everything. But I was really hoping they wouldn't hard reset it because like that would just be terrible if everyone went back to plat 1 and it's 0 P. It's just going to be like a fiesta. You don't know who you're going to get your games. I'm really surprised that the community just screaming ranked reset. Well, it actually worked. Now we're resetting ranked.
Yeah, like you're saying, it's mostly the high ELO players and the streamers and stuff. And so then everyone who watches them also likes the crap thing.
Like they actually know. Yeah, I don't know.
The thing is, it only really affects like 3% of players total or something like that, right? Because only like 3% of players are in Diamond Master.
We are part of the 3% though.
Hell yeah.
Are you guys? Everyone here?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm down
Not
to 1.
Phreak. I'm down
he
to 2.
actually hasn't. Flex you.
Yeah.
Diamond
But
at heart.
but
I didn't play much last season, so I'm in plat.
I don't know. The thing for me, like, it doesn't affect me. Like to go down one division in Diamond, I don't think really matters much. Do you actually? You were saying you're like 700 LP or whatever. Does that annoy you though that you're now back to 0 LP? Because that's actually like a huge loss. Whereas if you're in Diamond, you lose 100 LP basically, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're high in Challenger, you could lose 600, 700, 800, or I don't even know what rank 1 is now, probably 1K or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely frustrating. We had a competition going on internally at Cloud9. Like, whoever gets rank 1, like 1K LP first is going to get like a prize. We even had like a reward. And so we're all grinding super hard. Everyone at Cloud9 was grinding super hard. I think
That's cool.
Nisqy got like 700 or 800 LP. Svenskaren, it was like almost 1,000. He was really high up there. But once they changed the ranking, the MMR system to where I basically at first it was inflated where you get like plus 30 every game, minus 6. And then they did the reverse. So it's like minus 30, like plus 6. So it's super frustrating playing in that ecosystem too. And once they said they're going to reset ranked, we're all like, well, time to get on Smurfs. Like, why are we going to play on our main? We're already going to lose 600, 700, 800 LP. I'm not going to play any more on it.
I do think it's super interesting though that you guys have that like internal race or
smart.
internal bets because I kind of do that with a lot of my friends just for any games to be competitive and make the game more fun, right? Racing with each other, that aspect always adds something to it. Have you seen the Mo versus Tyler 1 bet?
Oh yeah, I have.
By the way, they're doing an unranked to challenger. Who do you think is gonna win?
So like going into it, I thought for sure Tyler 1 was gonna win. Like,
for sure,
Yeah. I was like, Tyler 1 already played a bunch of different champions besides Draven. Like he climbed on Quinn. Like last season, Quinn was super strong. And then like I haven't really seen Mo play anything but Yasuo.
I seen him play some Silas.
I haven't seen him play Silas. Not in my games.
Not in your elo.
What about you, Phreak? You think T1's gonna win too?
No, I mean, so saying he climbed on Quinn is like fraudulent. Like that champion, it's like saying, "Oh, you climbed as on hit Nico." It's like, congratulations, you played the best champion in the game.
Quinn ADC.
Still a 56% win rate.
He plays Kai'Sa though too. I've seen him play
He's
Kai'Sa.
played Quinn like forever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I mean Quinn. I think Quinn's been overtuned almost forever. But either way, like, no, I mean like regardless, like my read is that Yasuo was a higher rated player. Like I don't really track high elo solo queue very much outside of LCS players, so like I don't have a lot of info. But I just assumed it was going to be Yasuo who's going to climb faster. So that was just my vote.
Yeah,
it's nothing to do with like the personalities at all. Like it's easy to play another Tyler 1 meme, so I will. But I mean it's whatever.
I definitely thought it was Tyler 1 as well for the same reason though, because I thought it was Yasuo's really good at Yasuo, but Tyler 1 wasn't even really playing Draven that much anymore. I didn't think like he was playing other champions. So I was like, oh, okay. But the other day I haven't watched that much, but the other day I saw he went from D2 to D4
Yeah.
No way.
and he double demoted it. And I was like, oh no. And he has like a sub 50% win rate ever since he started playing against diamond players. So,
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So so he's struggling. So, but I mean, the thing is, he's such a tilter that it's like you're watching the mental decay of Tyler 1 because when his mental's strong, he's looking pretty good.
He's a grinder too. So
Yeah.
Oh my god, he is.
Exactly. He'll play for like 20 hours straight. You're like, what are you doing? Just stop, reset.
He's like the one player that like he'll stream for like 8 or 12 hours and then he'll keep playing after his stream's over. I like check his stream, see if he's streaming, and I'm like, why are you still playing, man? Like you could be making bank right now. Like, why aren't you streaming this?
And it's not like people aren't watching the games either, because he turns off his stream, but he's still in games with like Nisqy and stuff. And Sneaky's the next highest like viewed streamer. And so I'm just watching Tyler 1 play anyway.
Losing Nisqy, yeah.
It's pretty funny. Something else that I kind of wanted to get your guys' thoughts on was the recent Reddit attack on Aphromoo, and kind of the broader topic of when social media is used by some fans in our league and around our league to really kind of latch on to one sort of player or one topic and just really go to town. It seems like this one has gotten excessive, where every morning I've woken up, opened up Reddit, and there's a new "look what Aphromoo did today" thread.
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted about it a little bit. I was talking. It was in response to I think an I Will Dominate tweet or whatever, and I saw some people on Reddit even talking about me tweeting and some other people tweeting about it, and I felt like so. In general, I think criticism of play is totally acceptable, right? Just as criticism of cast is totally acceptable. If a team is playing really bad, and I think 100 Thieves has looked like trash compared to where their expectations were, and I think that's fine to criticize that. What bugs me is how extreme it gets and how hyperbolic it starts to get. I'm not bothered by comments of people saying, oh, Aphromoo should have engaged on this player, that player, done whatever. It's more when people are like, oh, well, he's never actually been good. His MVP last year was fraudulent. He didn't deserve it. He's been bad for years. He doesn't care. He's just here for a paycheck. Like that sort of stuff where it's like, you don't actually know what the player is thinking. You can't read into their mindset. You can't say how much they care or don't care or really tell what the problems are. So to me, criticize the play, criticize the team, but what's on the screen, but the person and the mindset is something that I think is kind of like a little bit of a offside for me.
And I get the same sort of stuff like with casting as well. I feel like I'm Reddit's least favorite caster. And yeah, like I think of like when I did World Finals for 2017 and my name came up more than anyone else's name in that Reddit thread about like, hey, here's the people casting. And it was all like, Phreak sucks. He's only here because he's been at Riot for so long and it's all nepotism or whatever. And just like, you can criticize my casting. That's fine. Like whatever. And I'll take notes from that. But Reddit loves to be like, Phreak was never good. He doesn't understand that he's bad anymore. And somehow no one else understands he's bad either. I don't know why he's casting. And it's just like, cool. That's useful.
That's really interesting for me to hear, actually, that you guys have like you guys receive like the same kind of criticism that we do, right? Because I never actually really thought about casters getting like criticized by the community like us, but I guess we're both just doing performances on stage.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the stuff that people have been talking about Aphromoo is pretty excessive, and the plays that they picked out and pulled up, I mean, they were pretty. They didn't look too hot, right? They didn't look too great. It's kind of hard to defend the play that was seen.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think once the community kind of like has their eyes set on somebody, it's so easy actually to find like mistakes like that from any player, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of mistakes, a lot of people don't actually pick up from players, and they only see the highlight moments. Mm-hmm. So people have really skewed views of like, this player's insane, and then this player's really, really bad and doesn't care and whatever.
Yeah.
I've definitely been under the community's eye before many times, and it's something that's pretty crappy as a player, obviously, but I agree it's necessary, right? Like if you're not playing well, you should be criticized. Like the fans should want your team, like if they're a fan of that team, they should have expectations for that team and for the players of that team. But I think whenever it comes to like he's just looking for a paycheck or whenever it gets personal, it's just not necessary, you know?
Yeah, kind of like you're saying, we are public performers, and so that is going to come with public performances. You know, that's part of people discussing anything like art or movies, or there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs to a certain degree. It can definitely get to everybody though, and a lot of people have experienced that.
I think the one positive side of it is that if people weren't saying anything, you know what I mean? It's like they don't care. Right?
Yeah, I was just about to say that actually. It's like that. It's very subtle, but it's like at least people care. You know? Like,
people care. People are big fans of 100 Thieves, big fans of that team, and Aphromoo even. I think and his fans are pissed because they're expecting these big results and everything, and it's not happening. So they kind of like get mad, and that's understandable. I think that's sports. But that's not me condoning like how far some people go. And this is also, to be clear, I think most of the stuff on Reddit and whatever is totally fine. Most of the stuff is actually just criticizing of play, and there's far more people that I think are reasonable on there than not. But sometimes it can be very kind of like vitriolic and just kind of like angry,
There's one thing I want to say on this whole like topic is that I feel like Aphromoo, but even 100 Thieves in general, has been receiving so much flack this season, right? Like everyone just saying like, oh, maybe it's because of expectations that came in with the season,
right?
But I feel like I've heard like 10 times more about 100 Thieves losing than Clutch losing, and they're tied, right? I just think I always think that's really funny where people are like 100 Thieves is whatever X, Y, and Z, and then no one's really saying much about Clutch, and then they're tied. They're on the same level.
They are tied. I think a lot of it has to do with expectations. Also, a lot of it does have to do with how ridiculous some of the plays have looked.
Yeah.
So the one example I'll give is the one where they start up Baron. I don't even remember who they were playing.
Oh, it was
the Golden Guardians?
It was Golden Guardians.
Golden Guardians had like 4 or 5 elemental dragons, so they put the element to the
dragon. I think I know
those. Pull off the Baron, and then they just sit in mid lane and they all like recall or something.
And then they didn't even contest any of their inhibs.
It's one of those
Did
moments.
You hear Froggen's comms after that? It was hilarious. So I forgot I was playing in an A.
Exactly. And for speaking like for the fans, like if I see that play in even like over Phreak's shoulder watching his solo queue game, I'm like, whoa, what are these fools doing? So I can totally imagine a fan of a team with super high expectations because they made all these changes in the offseason, they brought on these big names, and then they've been doing really badly, and then you see that on stage and you're just like, Grr!
And they were in Worlds last year, and then they got bang. Right? This team is supposed to be good. So I don't think it's weird. People naturally are going to talk more about the teams that there are high expectations of if they do poorly. Just like in football, right? If the Patriots are terrible, that's much more of a story than if the Browns are terrible, right? They're on two different levels. And this is a team that in their first split went to finals, in their second split went to Worlds, and then everyone was saying they're massively better. and now they're in last, right? And I think that is what is so shocking, and that is what makes it so much more newsworthy than Clutch, where I think a lot of people weren't expecting a ton. Like expectation, the difference between expectation and result, I think, is by far the biggest for 100 Thieves compared to any other team in the league, right? A lot of people probably put Clutch 8th, 9th, 10th, that sort of area, and they're tied for 10th. 100 Thieves were ranked as high as first by some people. I think we had them aggregate third or maybe fourth on the dive, and then it's like now they're 10th, right? That's a big discrepancy. Just like if Cloud9 or TSM was sitting in last, it would be a huge story, like TSM last year, right? Not making playoffs,
finals for the first time ever,
not making
Seal's not making playoffs for the first time ever. Yeah. And to that point as well, it's like the last year or so of Lyra was like, wow, what happened to Lyra? This guy was an MVP caliber jungler, like back on the Envy days, and you had Huni, who like since basically Rift Rivals last year, like this was one of the top 3 top laners, and now he's like feeding in late and dying all the time. Like, what's happening? This is not my expectation. And like eventually expectation just resets. Like, okay, this is just their skill level now. Like no one's expecting Piglet to be a top 380 carry anymore, so no one cares that Clutch isn't doing very well. And hey, Vulcan's a rookie essentially, so it's like, okay, well, we don't expect a whole lot of these guys. That's fine. But if it was like Piglet fresh off SKT and Huni fresh off Fnatic and Lyra fresh off the Envy season, you'd be like, why isn't this team in first place? It's like, well, it's 3 years later.
Yeah. It's going to be super interesting to see how the organization handles it. Because like you're saying, they're a super new one, and they've had these really high highs, and now they're having low lows. And I do like that they had confidence in their academy mid laner to put him in.
Our boy Soligo.
Hint, something that some teams at the top of the table could take a note from.
I have no idea what you're hinting to.
We did have a mid lane focused day on Sunday for the Team Liquid Cloud9 big hype game. And as you know, Team Liquid did take that. But I'm very interested to hear your thoughts around, that specific game, these two teams, these two mid laners, because you have a unique insight here.
I do have some pretty good insight, I'd say, considering I've played under Jensen for a year and learned a lot, studied from him, and now I'm playing with Nisqy. I was really happy with how the mid lane was going. How in our game versus CL9, Nisqy played Syndra versus Jensen's Orianna, and Jensen's kind of known for his Orianna too. We we thought he would pick that into Syndra. I think we first picked Syndra or one.
You definitely picked it before Ori.
Yeah, we 100% picked Ori first, or Syndra first. And Nisqy was doing really well in lane. There was that one really weird moment where like our boy Dennis tried to like tower dive Jensen level 2.
It was a good one.
So I think that impacted
the Q flash.
Yeah, I don't think it would have killed him anyway. That was my swole bro. He wanted to kill Jensen.
He had too much pre-workout. He was like, I'm going in.
Yeah, but I think that was so for like the 1v1 matchup right there. Jensen's always okay. So Jensen's always known as like a really, really strong laner, and like what his weaknesses were last split is he wasn't super great at utilizing his lead, right? So that's why when Blabber came in, Blabber was super good at utilizing Jensen's, like, if Jensen had like a little bit of lead, he's like,
with me.
Yeah.
We're going on a
exactly.
mission.
I was like, help me, I'm fighting, like, they're on me, right? And Dennis likes to play a lot more like slow and calculated game. And Blabber's the opposite, like Blabber, he sees someone, I'm going. Sometimes he doesn't even say anything. Like literally in our academy match last week, there was like, we got bot turret, right? We're like pressuring them off bot turret, pressuring a dive. And we got the turn, we're backing off. And then he just Rek'Sai tunnels in, right? And I'm like, guys, Blabber's going in. We gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta help this guy out. And he just flashed in like solo kills on 1v3. And we're like, good job, Blabber.
Like this is one of those friend comedy movies where everyone's like walking away from the store and they're like, wait, where's Blabber? Oh, he's over there. Oh, let's go get him.
Yeah. So I think like now that Jensen's playing with Xmithy, I think he plays a little bit of a different style. I think he's probably like, it's probably a wake up call for him. And he's like trying a lot harder to work on his like weaknesses that he had. Cause I think on Cloud9, when you're with a team for so long, it's kind of easy to get like complacent with your play style. Cause when you've also been doing so well, right? But in that game specifically, Nisqy was really dominating lane. He was up
like 20 CS or something.
Up like 20 CS, 2 turret plates, a lot of gold. There's a lot of pressure. And And now it was kind of ironic because Nisqy kind of did the same thing where he wasn't super great with his utilizing his advantage out of lane. There was that really weird fight at Rift Herald. That was like kind of the first thing that he was involved with in the game that Jensen and Nisqy were involved with. And they like got pushed off the Rift Herald, burned Flash. They lost the Rift. And we didn't really know how to play versus them as well as a team. They were very, I guess, what's the right word? They kind of like would step up to us and we'd just be scared, right? Like they would step up and they'd throw the Ori ball in our face and no one would want to walk past it. No, I think we're just in general as a team, we're too afraid to make mistakes.
That was like Svenskeren, I think, had an interview and there was a quote from it that was basically against Team Liquid, we give them too much respect. Against everyone else, we just kill those idiots. Was essentially the quote.
I think that's the quote.
And it can be true, right? Sometimes when there's this aura about a team and you know that they're the best team, it was always something that people talked about when they played against Faker and, in some of these teams that are sitting at the top of the table, people are like, oh, but for sure they know that I'm coming and it's going to get counter ganked, so I can't gank, right? I just better keep farming. Well, for sure they're going to TP and they're going to have a ward behind us and we're going to get flanked, so we shouldn't push this turret, right? And if you give a really good team that much respect that they have done everything perfectly, even if they haven't proven that they have, then, well, they're probably going to win, right? Because you're not actually pressuring them to force, like, show me that you have it, right? Show me that you can make that play. Show me that you did do that ward. Show me that, you're kind of ready for it. And I think that can be a big mindset thing.
Yeah. That even happens to me in solo queue whenever I get like an LCS player or a big streamer. I kind of got into that mindset because the first couple of times I got QT, he just destroyed me. Like every time I would try and go gank him or something, like there would either be a counter gank or he'd outplay us 2v1.
Yeah.
And I would just had like mental boom and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
So then whenever I would get an LCS player, I'd be like, I can't go there. He's going to be too good. But then like a couple of years ago, I just gave up on that. And I was like, whatever. I'll just try and kill him every time I see him. And then if I do one time, then I screenshot that.
You did it. Congratulations. You clipped it from the stream, like him getting mad after he died.
And I actually have beaten like a decent amount of LCS players now. So like, I feel like the Svenskeren thing, like you guys just have to, maybe you need Blabber in there for one time or whatever, just to get everybody in there.
Give them no respect at all.
Because Blabber's like definitely going to go, go hard in there. So that could be a key. You mentioned in an interview after LCS game that the 7-man roster is coming. You aren't willing to say who the other person is besides Blabber. I'm willing to bet that it's like 98% is going to be Grayson here.
Well, I am allowed to say, I asked Reaper, but I have been practicing with a team and scrims and
mild shock.
Yeah, mild shock.
Two-face.
Like Reaper kind of does what he wants, and he's like the mastermind of the roster, right? So you're asking me, I'm kind of just one of the puppets he's like playing with, right? I'm pretty mindless in that sense of I don't really control anything that's going on, but yeah, me and Bob have been practicing with the main team, getting ready for playoffs. And we kind of just started a week or two ago because there's not too much of a point in using a 7-man roster for regular season. When you're playing BO1s, it's like, all right, you already lost. Like you can put someone in for the next game, but it won't change the outcome of a series. So yeah, we're practicing. We're getting ready for that playoffs.
I'm so excited for playoffs.
Me too.
We're like 2 weeks out now?
We're going into week 8, right? There's 4 matches left, so 2.5 weeks from today, playoff starts.
All right. Before we get into the playoffs, though,
okay,
I'm pretty excited for 9.5 to hit pro
solo
play.
queue adventures.
Personally, I have been spamming Vi. I used to be a Vi main 2 years ago, 3 years ago, actually. It was the first champion I ever hit Masters on, and then they changed her, and so I quit and stopped playing her. But I'm finally back on because these changes make her extremely tanky. I know that Super Metroid, when he saw them, he's a one-trick challenger Vi player, and he always builds the Ghost Blade, Trinity Force, like full damage builds. He was actually kind of mad because it is a bit worse for full damage. They lowered her damage
like 0.6
ratios,
lower
right?
AD ratios.
It's pretty big.
It's definitely worse for full damage, but I just build Trinity Force, and I go full tank, and it's so fun. It actually feels really good. My favorite part about playing the champion was always the feel of impacting people with smashing them with your Q, reset auto attack, you get the denting blow, like everything about the champion to me just felt so smooth. Like you're actually just beating somebody up. and I'm very happy that she's back for solo queue at least. I don't think she'll be in professional play, unfortunately, because there's a stigma attached to this champion. And, you know, I feel like it takes a long time for pro players to change their perception of a champion that hasn't been in pro play for a long time.
So what you're saying is really satisfying for you to beat other people up, Kobe.
Kobe was threatening to punch me in the face earlier today.
Yeah, no, I've seen some Vi in my solo queue games. It actually looks pretty strong. I've seen people going Aftershock. Yeah. Like they've been just going like, I actually don't know what build they've been going. Probably Warrior.
I've been seeing some Warrior Sterics Aftershock.
Yeah.
They're so tanky.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel like it could be picked up in competitive play if like the Aftershock build works out, because full damage Vi will probably not be in competitive. It's just too easy to play. It's way too easy to be played around.
Yeah.
But Vi looks pretty strong in my solo queue games. I think when you might see her by time of playoffs.
So, I mean, to give the thought to damage Vi, she's basically going to fill a similar role to, say, like Nocturne or Hecarim. Like, she's a diver, right? The point is to reach some backliner very reliably and burst them with the person. And, like, Nocturne goes Warrior, sometimes Duskblade or Youmuu's, and just a GA, so that, like, you dive and you trade GA for the kill. And you're like, cool, we win the team fight. Now I'll play the second half. I feel like Vi's sort of lethality in sort of a common noun lethality, like she's good at dealing damage term. Like she can also trade GA for like a Jinx or something. Unless it's a Tahm Kench, then you lose the game. But like we're seeing more crit marksmen like Kai'Sa's out there, and you can chain CC her for 2 seconds. Jinx is getting more play. If you can pop Sivir spell shield, you just smite her, spell shield goes away, so you can get the ult off. Like I feel like there are targets for Vi to be useful. And I'm like looking at
you're saying full damage, or you're
I'm saying, but you know, a Nocturne build, right? Like someone with a Warrior and another BF sword in the build, like that's enough to help kill a backliner. And jungles get to 3 items before the game ends anyway, so it's like Warrior GA plus anything is essentially damage Vi.
Yeah, that's what you probably build.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, well now you're doing Vi things. Looking at solo queue, it's like Meteos is playing her a bunch, and I saw how you tweeted about it, and was like, she's really, really strong, but I can't seem to make it work. Trick's been playing her. Contracts put a few games in.
I'll hit him up with some tips.
Yeah. I feel like maybe you got that unlucky. But yeah, basically it feels like only a few pros are even trying Vi in solo queue. She has a fairly low pickup rate from pros. So I'm using that as my gauge for whether or not she'll be in pro, and it feels like only a handful of junglers even trying.
I think, you know, alongside something like support Galio, it could make sense if you're doing like Warrior GA or like Sterix or whatever, you know, something like
I just feel like there's better options.
Yeah, maybe there are. You should play Nocturne instead.
I don't know. I actually think she'll get picked up for playoffs, because I think, well, one thing that a lot of people forgot about Vi is that she's incredibly good at soloing Dragon. A lot of people forgot. Dragons are pretty good. Dragons are pretty good right now.
Yeah.
And then also
really good too.
Yeah. And then there's also I think you will see her in the same sense where you'll see a Nocturne. It'll be a dive comp, right? But you can see like maybe like a Kai'Sa. Imagine like Vi Kai'Sa Galio, right? You ult onto enemy carry, you Galio ult in, then Kai'Sa ult in too. Like it could be a really strong, like different version of Nocturne where you don't provide that vision denial from the ult, which I mean that's super impactful, but maybe you have like a bit stronger of an early game, or can do Dragon a bit better, or you have different gank angles early game. So I don't know. I'm not for sure we'll see it, but for my solo queue games, it feels pretty strong. Along with like some other new junglers like Skarner, the new Spire. The new Spire actually looks like pretty strong.
It's ridiculous. The area of the Spire things now is insane. Captain Flowers got his work done. He juiced Skarner up.
I think Skarner's gonna be in pro for sure, because I just think that it was we saw how it worked in pro before for a long time. It was been played. Now I think one of the biggest changes is something that Flowers has been. I think one of the first conversations I ever had with him was him talking about how he hated that when you capture a Spire, it shows on the minimap, because that was always his biggest complaint. He's like, you're counter jungling them. You have to take your Spire to be able to do anything in the jungle, but then they all know that you're there and they collapse on you. So for pro, where people are actually paying attention to that stuff, I think that matters a lot more even. So it's harder to know where Skarner is actually playing on the map, because the Spires don't just tick over on the map. So I think that's pretty big, and we could easily just see the kind of like tank style Skarner again, right? Like Aftershock, Righteous Glory, Cinderhulk, Skarner. Seems like there's no reason that won't get in. But
it's coming.
100%
it's coming.
We're gonna see his
All
right, there you go.
Something I've been playing a lot of though is the new Kale, which I have been playing it a bunch. I'm still.
I think that's a 0% pro play.
That's
I
what
don't
think.
Week
actually.
one.
Oh, I think
Week one? You think someone's in there week one with that?
Well, I don't even know if it's
Yeah, on red
enabled
side.
week one because it's
Someone pick Scion.
LEC. So in LEC, I know that they're not having it for week one. I saw a tweet that said that they're disabling it. So I don't know if we're doing the same or not. Or
I think it's enabled
ruling.
for us. I'm pretty sure.
I know that. Yeah.
I know Silas is disabled for us this week.
Yeah.
Which, sucks for Cloud9. We have 4 Silas players, but
I just think for Kale, the early game is so incredibly weak. Like I think that this is
Sneaky.
I think it is the weakest of any champion in the game early. And it's one of those things where I feel like old Kale did some similar things. I actually think old Kale in some situations was stronger late game than new Kale because you could actually attack during your ultimate. So there are like not all situations, but one of the reasons anytime I would ever talk to pros about old Kale, like it was actually incredible into a lot of tank matchups as well. But people are like, the early game is too weak. It's too easy to get ganked. You're too vulnerable. People can force objectives too often, and you can't actually group and fight. This is so much worse in all those scenarios because you're actually melee for the first 10 levels of the game. I think that you're like the fact that your ultimate you can't actually be attacking during it is pretty tough as well. Like.
Yeah.
Even in some of the post 16 stages. So I think in the ideal scenario, new Kale is much stronger than old Kale post 16. But I do still think that you can really struggle against certain champions and also against range champions, like really long range champions. So I've played some games against things like Xerath, Twitch. Like Twitch, 6 item level 18 Kale, but a Twitch actually opens with his ult, and you have to self ult in 2 autos, or you instantly die because you're still very squishy, and then you can't attack during your ult. So you've essentially already lost the fight, right? Whereas with old Kale, you would just actually flash on his face and self ult and kill him. Yeah. So there's differences like that. But where I would say it's actually so insane is if you're doing the AD build. I think the Bork AD build is for sure the best. Against frontline style comps, you can absolutely blast them because you're AoEing, you're dealing true damage splash. Like that is where I think this champion is actually absurd. Is if people are running multi-tank teams and you could get to level 16, it feels like a free win. And I also feel like no game feels totally lost when you're playing Kale because I've had games where you are getting blasted early and there's multiple inhibs down, but you clear super minions for free. Post 16, it's not hard at all. Like you could probably solo be clearing 3 waves of super minions. Yeah. Like it's pretty insane. But the early game is so bad that I don't think we will see it in pro because I don't think players are willing to play that heavily around something where it's like the entire game would be about Kale. Defending it and trying to punish it. I feel like
you played a couple games, right?
Yeah, I played a couple games last night. My academy coach Westrice, he was playing a lot. He went from Masters to D2 playing Kale. Good. Basically, what the general consensus that I have, and from talking to other players, is that Kale is like extremely strong at level 11. Once you hit level 11, like you are really strong, and I don't think. Once you hit that, if you can hit to the 11 point without being too behind, then it's a lot easier to come back to and like get to that 16 point where you're super strong, right? It's kind of like a Kassadin in the sense where like it's really weak early. I actually think it might be weaker than Kassadin though, which is pretty insane to think about that a champion can be weaker than Kassadin.
Sure.
Early game, but I don't know if it'll be picked up. If it is, it'll have to be as a top lane counter pick to some like tank for sure. Like you probably won't see it in any other role. I don't think it can lane mid, can't lane bottom. I don't think
you need too much
very
experience.
Well.
You can't jungle or bot.
What about as a disrespect pick? If you're like that solo laner is the worst solo laner
Jace,
in the whole league of either mid or top, Kale. Give me.
Every pro top laner is good enough to win Jason to Kale.
I played that matchup last night solo queue. I got blocked.
Yeah, you could give him Jace top lane into like
you
win, shy and
you win the lane. Are you good enough to finish the game though?
I mean, I don't know. It's in NA. We don't close games out, so maybe it's fine here.
That's true. I did win my game versus Jace. I went like 4-1.
See?
I was just like spamming, hey, Ringar, come gank this Jace, please. And then he ganked him. The Jace still killed me, but we killed him.
That was the one death, but it's okay.
This is the reason I haven't dueled with Azael. He asked me if I wanted to duel the other day, and I was like, are you going to play Kale? He was like, yeah. Like, no, thanks, buddy.
One thing that I think is really good. So some people are probably doing it, but Klepto I think is actually insane on this champion.
That's what I want.
So like I go Klepto, and then secondary I'm going like Mana Flow and just else, that it doesn't even matter. You can probably just take a greedy stacking CDR thing or whatever. But like you just E the person on cooldown and you're getting Kleptoprocs plus you're stacking your mana flow band. Yep. And one of the craziest things about it is if you ever get an elixir of skill, you get your range a level earlier.
Yeah, I noticed that last night. I was so confused. I was playing
energy on purpose.
I got the elixir of skill and I was like, I'm level 10, but my champion like blew up, and I'm like, do I have ranged autos now?
It's actually such a big deal. Getting that a couple of minutes earlier is
huge.
Yeah, because 16 really matters. Getting 15
and 16 is
significant
enormous. Yeah.
So
like 3 minutes or something.
The other thing I would say is I think as people play it more, there are matchups I'm realizing that you can actually start winning pre-11. So I think you have to be for sure 6. And at 6, when you stack it up and you start getting the splash, you can act like the stacks actually last pretty long for your passive. So especially like I've had times where it's like, you get from Klepto like a rage pod or whatever, you get the AD and you have that. And I'm doing Emax often in lane. And if you can be splashing them through the minions, like you can actually start getting it to a point where you're harassing them pretty heavily. And you can actually start to bully some melee matchups. You're still incredibly vulnerable to getting ganked and in all in from full health, you're going to lose. But like there are ways to splash them down, even with minion dematerializer. I've been taking that a lot. And then on every cannon wave, I try to play somewhat aggressive. You just dematerialize the cannon. Your E splashes post 6, so you can actually like kill the wave really fast and then try to start messing with them. But definitely a lot of it revolves around having your passive stacked because you can't fight anyone without it. But it's a ton of attack speed with that. And Blade of the Rune King, I think first is so strong because even just if you go Cutlass, you're actually lifestealing off all the waves that you're splashing. So when your passive is stacked, you're like AoE lifestealing from the whole wave. So you have a ton of healing, and the W speed up plus the Cutlass active allows you to actually like kite people out pretty well. So there's some things where some matchups you're like, ooh, maybe I could like do okay, but it's definitely you're waiting for late game.
Yeah, I mean, like Phreak said earlier, I think, red side into Scion, I could definitely see that working. But not many people are blinding Scion that often anymore.
Fair. Yeah.
And actually, the number one thing I was surprised about when I was playing Kayle last night is, when I heard you can't auto during the ult, I was like, why would I play this champion then? Like, what's the point? But it actually felt pretty good still using the ultimate with all the damage that comes down afterwards. Yeah. It felt pretty good in team fights. When I like ulted the tank who engaged and he was invulnerable and then he did a ton of damage just around everyone. Or when they're, let's say, I think I was getting dove like 2v1 and I just ulted myself and the turret hits plus the ult damage. I was able to I think I ended up like 3v1ing under turret with it. It was insane. So I think the champion feels really fun to play. And because of that, I think you'll see pros start to practice it. But it's definitely going to be, a niche pick at best.
I mean, if you have one of those moments, if you have a 3v1 under your turret Kayle defense early in the game, like
you won.
That game is like over.
Game's over.
You're like, everybody back it up.
Yeah.
I'm on my way to level 11 or I'm rich. Like
the games I've gotten ahead early as Kayle, which is only a couple out of like 20, the other team is legit flaming their top laner in all chat and being like, how did this idiot lose the Kayle? Game's done, blah, blah,
Yeah, I actually played Kayle AD too. I played at AD.
Yeah, I think it's correct.
Top. Oh, no, I mean like AD carry. I
what?
Played like AD, I played a bot lane. Yeah, with TP.
I think that's so troll.
With a Jet. I won lane versus Jen Karma. With Kayle. Yeah. I mean,
in Challenger game?
No, I was on a Smurf. But
okay.
I mean, it was still like Diamond.
Versus...
It was still like Diamond games. And I actually still lost the game after I was like level 14 because my team just like ran it down and fought without me. But it definitely feels like if you know what you're doing, you can get through lane a lot easier, I think, than people think. With Klepto, Q farming, E trading, and then like if you get a mana pot or elixir skill, you get a mana pot, you just start healing yourself. So yeah, I'm excited to see it because it's really fun to watch.
It's definitely fun to play.
All right. Is there any other like special pick for you that you've been super excited about in solo queue? Please tell me that there is, and it's Zed, because that's what I was excited for last was 2 weeks ago, and we never had any Zed in North America. I was very sad.
Well, okay, so what I was really excited for was AD Nico. I was
on hit,
spamming it on hit. It was the most impressive champion. I love playing broken champions. That's my thing. That's my thing.
I too love winning with broken.
I love it. I have no remorse for my enemies. When I'm just smacking around. And 80 on hit Bill Nico was the most broken thing I played in probably like 4 years. It felt ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
But they hotfixed it, so those 15 games I put into that doesn't really matter. I do think
a lot of have those times though. You'll remember.
Yeah. A lot of people in Korean solo queue. So I've been tracking a lot of Korean solo queue. A lot of mid laners are spamming Zed over there, like Faker, BDD, Showmaker. There's a lot of players over there spamming Zed. So I think a lot of us NA mid laners are like, hey, what are those guys playing over there? And it has a couple okay matchups, I think, right now. Like I think you could see it as a counter into Syndra if people are blind picking Syndra. It really just depends though, because that is a champion you want to put a lot of practice into, a lot of time, have like your mechanics very on point, and that's like the number one thing when you're trying to decide what to practice as a pro, right? Because there's so many different champions that you could play.
Yeah,
but I think you'll see it, and I guarantee you'll see at least one game of Zed before playoffs is over. Like the rest of LCS and playoffs, I think you'll see at least one game.
The Goldenglue guarantee.
Have you played Azael into Zed? Because I think that is one of the hardest counter matchups I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, it's rough.
You can prep your E when he deathmarks, and he just deathmarks into your shield, and then he gets stunned, and then you counter ult him. And plus you can rush the first item Zonias.
Yep.
And it's just
and you get low from the shuriken, and you put up pop, and you just W heal for 500 health, and you're like, oh, okay.
I saw that matchup, and I was just like, wait, how does Zed ever win?
Yeah.
Actually just seems so doomed.
Yeah, it's really doomed. Silas is so strong.
Yeah. So you're saying this week, if he's disabled,
he is.
Time to shine.
This is the 1 week. Pull out the Zed.
Quick.
Here's a very quick Kale thing before I think we move on. I'm looking up solo queue. Untara's playing it a ton, and he's going Trinity Force. Just it's just I press E and do this one thing. That's how he's getting through early mid game. He just does that and every 5 seconds he just Sheen procs you.
Yeah.
Triggers mana flow ban, triggers Klepto, and just that's how he's getting through his laning phase.
I tried a Triforce game and also a Lichbane game, but I just feel like he doesn't actually spam spells enough for it to feel really good. It's kind of somewhat clunky, but maybe I'm wrong and that'll end up being the hotness. But we should hop into LCS.
Yeah.
Goldenglue's got places to be, so we're gonna get into it. TL, C9, they're pretty much locked down at the top. We know that both these teams are going to be in playoffs. They're looking like clear number 1, number 2. Do you guys think anyone has a chance really of catching up to C9? Any way you see it happening?
I would throw TSM's hat in the ring, but I would not bet on it probably. If you ask me percentages, if I was confident, putting money on it.
So they're 2 games back, 4 games to play.
And C9 owes the tiebreaker. So TSM has to go 4-0 to a 1-3 of C9. That's not happening.
And I kind of got amped up for them when they strung a bunch of wins together, but then they also, in the last couple of games, made some mistakes that we saw at the beginning of the split that I thought maybe they had cleaned up. So then I was like, never mind. They're still kind of unpredictable. I think they have a lot of ups and downs, especially Broken Blade plus Acadian plays. Every time they go for a 2v2, I'm like, ooh, are they going to do the same thing? Are they going to do opposite things here? It's, what do you think? Because I feel like Team Liquid, after winning that Cloud9 game, they're for sure, to me, going to be number 1.
Yeah.
And I feel like Cloud9 is almost for sure.
Cloud9 also has a really easy strength of schedule remaining. The second easiest in the league for the last 4 games.
I mean, any one of those teams aren't playing each other anymore. So it's I think both C9 and TL just go 4-0. And it's cool, okay, there's the buys. We'll see you and, see you later.
I think ranking wise, it's pretty locked in for us and TL. I mean, unless one of the teams, since TL owns the head-to-head to us and we own the head-to-head to TSM, it's gonna be really hard to move up. Obviously, if some 0-4 or 4-0 happens, it could happen, but I wouldn't bet on it. And I think people should just think about going into playoffs, who's gonna be stronger, because I do think the relative team strength is a lot closer than that. I do think on any given day, any TSM C9 TSM, I think anyone could beat anyone. And going into playoffs, I think it's going to be interesting how the teams adapt to the new patch and see if that changes, because I think the jungle pool will open up a lot. I think it'll be a bit better for the control junglers like Skarner coming into the game. See how Acadian can pull up versus I don't really when I consider Arcadia's been playing a lot more Sejuani recently, and I think his highest moments are on Carry Champions, Graves, Nocturne, Stealing Barons. I feel like that's really like his highlights when I watch him play. And like with the control style coming in, will he be able to pick up like? I mean, he's already been playing a lot of Sejuani, but Smithy and Siskaran are definitely both like Skarner players. They played it a lot in the past. They've both done really good on it. You know, if Eric's really good at counter picking, so if Kale actually comes into the meta, maybe we'll be able to pick that up too. Like we'll see how the next patch affects us. And going into playoffs, I'm pretty interested to see how the relative power strength looks like.
Yeah, I've been like hypothetically thinking of a playoff series with Team Liquid and Cloud9, and it's really fun because, you know, even though Team Liquid have the head-to-head in regular season, and in that game, yeah, Cloud9 did kind of look scared. So think about that, and then in the best of series, they have Reaper drafting plus 7-man roster. I just feel like there's so many more things that over the course of a series, Cloud9 would change than Team Liquid would. Every single Team Liquid game, I'm like, I know exactly what to expect. And if they do something different, I still know what to expect, and it's not going to be as good.
I remember, though, last time this happened, and it was still 3-0 Team Liquid.
True, that's
so.
True.
Until C9 proves me otherwise, they've got like a 6 or 7 game losing streak to Team Liquid across the iterations. Like
I won last time, not in playoffs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that was the one sub. That's the win, and then there was the 5-game losing streak.
Just putting that up there.
But yeah, I mean, like obviously you guys are really good. The world showing was really good. But like for me, like I have to see it until I believe it.
Yeah.
So for now, hey, you're the number 2 team, which is really good. But if the upset happens, then that's awesome.
If it comes back to the betting, we probably just put our money on Team Liquid.
Yeah. I mean, that's a safer bet, right? That's an easier bet.
Yeah.
The
caster predictions that tweet that Dash put out, like half the people, or maybe even more, put bet on C9.
Yeah.
Because
I was right. I said.
I feel like a lot of that is because excitement, best of one. Like whenever there is a clear team at the top, lots of people have the feeling that they want to see that toppled.
And I think you can definitely see the ways that C9 can win. You know, when you talk about counterpicking for Licorice, that seems like such a big way in, right? To me, one of the most standout things in that game is that even though Licorice, C9 lost, Licorice was playing Poppy into Jace, and he was pressuring Impact under his turret and took solo first turret and all his plates.
Yeah.
And that is like the exact opposite of how that matchup is supposed to be, and just speaks to the laning skill of these two players. And it's like, holy shit, Lucas is actually so much better than Impact in lane, like at least on carry versus that sort of matchup, that it wasn't even funny. So to me, if you can get that sort of result, and then you flip the matchup where Licorice actually has matchup advantage and skill advantage, then that's a way that you can take over a game.
Yeah.
Impact Jace to me.
Yeah,
that's a no-go for playoffs.
But they keep picking it.
It's a hard no for me.
They're gonna keep picking it. Like very clearly, they think this is a pick for them. They played it at MSI in an elimination game. They played it at Worlds. They continually pick it in LCS. He got solo killed by Darshan last time. Week or 2.
We need to have an intervention with them. Darshan solo killed him with Ornn too. It's like every game this happens.
But they're picking it.
Yes. So I will first say I agree. Impact's Jace is not good. I will then devil's advocate why they're picking it. Jace is the #1 champion in pro play right now. He's like the blind pick top laner. Like if you're blue side, you're probably playing Jace. Highest presence across the world in the top regions. So like if you can't play Jace, your team is screwing up. So like, you know what? We've got a buffer. We're gonna make playoffs. Let's put as much practice on as possible. Hey, Impact, you want to learn Jace? Go play against Licorice.
But it's not learn Jace because he's played it for years. That's
but
where
get the reps, right? Like, look, they have the runway to like, they can throw games and they'll still get first seed. Like they can throw 2 games in the finals and maybe still win the series.
This is my question to you guys. So take off your C9 hat, right? You're just an NA fan at home, right? You're assuming you want NA teams to do well, right? Team Liquid's at Worlds or whatever. It's Game 5 World Finals. And he locks in Jace against Shy, right? Are you happy about that?
No. When you phrase that question, no, I'm not.
So this is the thing, right? So and my argument is then, if in the most important situation, you would not be happy to see them lock in the Jace, and that I think is true. Like when I've asked that sort of question to anyone, even when I say, oh, and it's against G2 or it's against Fnatic, it's at MSI, it's whatever, everyone's always like hard no, right? So then I just feel like because he's such an amazing tank player and he does really well in lane on tanks, why not then spend that time instead of practicing Jace, practicing more different tanks? Because we know he had a really good Singe before. I would be way more in the camp of, let me see you play Singe, let me see you play, Malphite, let me see you play all these different tanks and find out in pro play which tanks work best in which matchups, because he's incredible at that style. He team fights really well. He plays the map really well. He minimizes loss on tanks really well. He does all these things. There's Poppy, there's all these different champions. And I think that there actually is a tank for basically every matchup. And that is where I'm like, okay, it's totally fine if you're not the best Jace player in the world because you're fucking amazing at tanks. Just play more different tanks, and you can do that as a style, right? They have Jensen and double if you don't need a carry top.
Well, so to that, I would say like you don't want to be too one-dimensional as a team or as a player, and I definitely agree. Like I completely agree in the sense of that, like you want to see impact on tanks, right? Like he knows. He's just insane at the playstyle, right? Like he's really good at finding engage, really good at finding flanks, super good at knowing how much damage he can take, how much damage he can do. Like he's amazing at it. I would say like it's like Phreak was saying, I think it's pretty good that going into playoffs that they're practicing it, because there's just some situations where as a team, if you feel like you can't play this champion and it's the number one pick champion in pro play right now, it really mainly it's for draft. It really hurts your draft. If you can't take that Jace and like punish the enemy for like leaving it open, it really hurts you as a team, and it feels really bad even for the teammates of like, well, we keep getting crapped on by the enemy Jaces every game. Why are we picking this champion? And that's a lot how it starts, right? It's just like, yeah, the enemy team, they're kind of shitting on us with this champ every single game. Why aren't we playing it? And that's really what it comes down to, is like picking up new styles, learning how to play different. And I think that's a huge part of pro play. And I don't think you have to be the shy Jace or rookie Jace to be able to play the champion, right? I think if you can fulfill the role of, I mean, he was able to do it later in the game where you're split pushing, just taking turrets. Because like, once you get to that point, there's nothing a Poppy can do to a
also,
Jace.
bots could do the same thing where there's no champions in your lane and you're just walking there shooting the turret or whatever.
Yep.
Team Liquid had five of the other team on the other side of the map, and Impact's taking all the turrets. Like, okay, like, yes. I do feel like Impact and Huni are like two halves of the perfect player. Like they're complete opposite.
Need a fusion dance.
Yeah, it's like we had the perfect top laner, and then there was like, lightning bolt right down the middle, and they split off. And Huni's like, I'll take all the damage and range champions. And Impact was fine. I'm melee only. I play tanks and a couple bruisers. But it's kind of like a way of thinking about the game. And as a jungler, we play range and melee champions, and there's a huge mindset change when you're playing like Kindred versus Zach or something like that, right? And I feel like those two guys kind of epitomize, the I can't turn left style, like Zoolander thing. And kind of to Azael's point, like if you have that, is it wasted time? Like you're talking about the resource that is pro players' time, because there's so many things to practice. And it's just like, I don't know. It's an interesting topic. Yeah. Like, do you want to drop more time into that?
Well, okay. So I feel like you could also argue that if you're so good at that styles, right? Let's say, he's a master of that style. You don't really have to practice it that much, right?
But he's not playing other tank champions. That's where my thing is, because I agree with you. You should diversify, right? But I just think that it's like diversify within your strength, right? Because it's different if you're a new player and you haven't played those styles. Impact has been playing for many years in pro, and this has been a trend for many, many years in pro, where it's like always that same thing. So that's why I'm not like, oh, play more Sion. You need to play more Sion, because we all know he can play Sion and Maokai and stuff, but just like branching out into some of the other tanks that are more actually good in counter picks. We've seen Malphite into Jace actually work really well for solo, and some other players more practicing those specific things is at least my argument.
And I would give Impact more room than just tanks, by the way. I think
frontliners and
to me, really melee champions, like it really is kind of a mindset to me where Jace is the most extreme.
Yeah.
Like the way you play Jace in that lane is so aggressive, and you utilize every harassment opportunity, using your range, trying to get all these little optimizations in that. I feel like that might be one that I do cut out, I do think that Impact has played plenty of damage melee champions, bruisers quite effectively.
Stylus, he was good on that. There can be pseudo frontliners.
So there are options for them. I just feel like Jace is a special case.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely see where you're coming from. I'm still on the side though, where I feel like as a player, I feel like if I'm not playing the number 1 pick champion in League of Legends in general and pro play, I'm kind of failing my team, right?
Yeah,
I definitely I feel that way, right? Well, you know
what it comes down to, right? Is just at least appearing like you can play meta stuff, even though the better pick. And yeah, like if he's in finals, I want to see Sion, Urgot, or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what you would win with. But I think it's okay to play stuff that you're not as good at, just to show that you can, so that maybe Champs looks different down the line, or maybe you get lucky and you find the pick you can do it with.
Yeah, I mean the Champions League point is a really good one, because I know last year one thing that was happening a lot to Team Liquid was people were blind picking GP knowing he was going to play a tank, right?
Yeah,
they were counter picking him essentially and taking away right side advantage. So I do agree you should show it. It's an interesting conversation, but we should move on a little bit here. So I'm curious who you guys think would be kind of the rest of the playoff team. So we've pegged those 3 teams at the top, right? TSM, C9, TL. Who else do we actually think is going to get in? So as it stands right now, FlyQuest is 4th, Golden Guardians is 5th, and tied with Optic. So those are like the top 6 right there. CLG, Clutch are 1 game behind Optic. Echo Fox and 100 Thieves are 2 games behind Optic and Golden Guardians.
So it might sound like the easy answer to just say the first 2 on the list of FlyQuest and Golden Guardians. But to me, a lot of the reason behind that is that of all these teams, these 2 have the best communication and teamwork, because they all speak English super well. They have had more cohesive plays than a lot of these other ones that we're mentioning. I feel like all the other ones have had those very spiky, kind of unsure roller coaster starts. But even Golden Guardians, they're technically 1 below FlyQuest at 6 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
They've been more consistent since the 04 start to me. So I feel like they've kind of built into it and grown into it. And I think that them and FlyQuest, the team play will probably get them there.
The thing with me with FlyQuest is I feel like before, they had a 2-0 week last week, right? Mm-hmm. They had a really good last weekend. Before last weekend, I probably wouldn't have said. I think FlyQuest will probably. I would have said I think FlyQuest will probably go into playoffs as 5th or 6th seed. Yeah. Now they're sitting in 4th place, so it's looking a little bit better for them.
They were a 5-game lose streak?
4 or 5 they had lost in a row.
Yeah, they were not having very much synergy, and they were not doing very well.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty important turnaround, right? Right 2 weeks before playoffs, you get a 2-0 week.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be enough maybe they can keep that momentum and run into playoffs as the 4th seed. I was expecting Clutch to kind of pick it up. Personally,
I heard a lot of that.
I feel like from what I've seen, that Huni's playing a lot more solo queue, trying a lot harder, and getting back into the Huni form that everyone knows him as. And with the fact that a lot of carry tops and counter pick tops are very strong right now, I was expecting them to come up, on the up and up.
So the problem is Clutch has an absurdly hard schedule.
Their
last 4 games are they've got you guys, they have TSM. Golden Guardians, I think, is a playoff team as well, and Team Liquid. They play arguably the literal 4 best teams in NA. And I would put Golden Guardians maybe actually number 4. So it's even if you're close, you're currently in 7th and you have the top 4 in front of you. So sorry, you spiked too late. Or they look good because they played the other bottom 5. Oh, they look good now because they're beating up 100 Thieves. Cool.
That's true. That could be it.
So, I'm not sure which one it is, but either way, even though I think Clutch maybe look decent and maybe they're better than Optic or CLG, it's too late.
I think that it's also, they've looked really good with a certain style, right? They're 3-0 with Aurelia bot lane, and I think that them playing aggressive melee bot lanes has looked like them at their best, because I think they actually do look really good at that aggressive style.
Sure.
And I wonder how many different champions they can make that same thing work with, because if it's only Aurelia, then Aurelia just gets banned and all of a sudden you can't do it. But if you can do it with Yasuo and you can do it with, a various group of champions, then I think it's pretty effective. But their schedule is really hard. FlyQuest also has to play both TL and C9 as well as Golden Guardians. So that's a really hard schedule. Their other one is 100 Thieves, so that's kind of easier. But I think
that's kind of easier.
Yeah.
I think
the opposite of Team Liquid.
Golden Guardians is the 4th best team. and I think they're probably going to finish in 4th. I think that it'll be interesting to see, if Optic or CLG can kind of like who's going to pull in right there, because I think CLG has looked like at times like quite good, but they just seem so up and down.
I actually even so on the countdown we have a LCS stocks game.
Yeah.
Where we invest in teams on their ELO. I bought into CLG, and then they subbed in their 2 academy players,
Auto
and they lost both of those games. And I mean,
sorry for your loss.
You can hear it in my voice, huh? Yeah. These dang academy players. So that's what like that one, and then Optic also is doing a lot of substitution. So subbing in people, I don't like blame the people that are subbing in. I just think that when you're making lots of substitutions like this right before playoffs, it is very hard to show consistency on stage, because that means your practice is also split. I know you're very, well equipped to talk about academy splitting time with LCS teams, and that's just kind of a feeling that you have watching these 2 teams. How do you feel about them?
I definitely feel like watching CLG and Optic, they're pretty big question marks for me, because like, what even is their roster, right? Like, who is their starters, right? Where we kind of like have a pretty set starters, right? We have Nisqy, Sven, like starting out they've been playing the whole season pretty much. Bobber's played 1 game. And we haven't really been splitting. Me and Bobber haven't really been splitting scrims with the main team until just recently. Like, we would really want to make sure we had a solid core roster before you like start adding on. Having like a 7-man roster of multiple subs it's definitely like an extra. It's like an add-on, right? It's DLC. You get it if you can, right? But
you do have to pay extra for that.
You do have to pay a bit extra for that, yeah. And it's super useful, super strong. And like last playoffs, it worked out really well for us.
But if you don't have a stable core,
if you don't have a stable core, it doesn't really work out.
Or if you cheap out and you get the like garbage DLC that's only like one extra character,
you get like a hat or something in there.
What's the point, anyways?
Doesn't even change anything. You can't tell, is it better with the hat or without?
CLG Optic play each other on this coming Saturday, and they're 1 game apart. And to me, looking at schedules and records, like those are the teams that are fighting for 6th right now. They have fairly similar opponents from then on. They both got like 1 to 2 hard opponents, 1 to 2 easy ones. Like that game immediately say, okay, well, if Optic wins, now they're like, or if CLG wins, now they're tied 4-6. I don't know what the head-to-head looks like right off the top of my head, but like that's probably the fight for 6 as that plays out.
Yep.
It's pretty interesting, because I also just think it's obviously a wildly different situation for Cloud9. If you're starting to play more and Blabber's starting to play more on stage, you guys are already secure for playoffs. You guys are already at the top of the standings, and then it's experimenting and, as you say, trying to add. Whereas with these other teams, it feels like they don't know what their best 5 is still. Right. And that is very concerning going into week 8. If you still don't even know what the roster that's going to work out best for you is, that speaks to me very highly of, okay, well, scrims are not going well. So you're experimenting. You're trying to figure out what's going to work better. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But I don't think those sorts of teams are going to be the ones that are going to be successful in spring, right? That's like more building towards summer, it feels like, and trying to figure out, okay, what's our stable 5? Then we'll work on that for next split, and we'll try to approach it. Because even if you do sneak in, barely at 6th, if you're still kind of experimenting and these other teams have been locked down for a long time, you're going to bet on them in playoffs every time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Goldenglue does have scrims coming up very quickly here.
I do. It's early in the morning.
So I think we'll go on to Twitter questions. We got a lot of Twitter questions, and I thoroughly enjoyed. This was one of the first 2 Twitter questions that answered the call when I tweeted out and asked. This is from Lord Ocelus of the 8th Sea. He says, if in a scenario similar to the 1988 movie Big, this is a movie where John Hanks, I believe, is the main actor. He's a little kid. He wakes up. He's all of a sudden in an adult body.
Yep.
And they go about the day. It's hilarious. Anyways, he says, if you woke up in a situation similar to Big and you were a low ELO player with an NA account, hard stuck in bronze 2. So he's this little kid, but he's got this NA account, hardstock in bronze 2. What champion and role do you play to climb your way up to high ELO again?
Are you a bronze 2 player?
No, you're you.
So you're still
you are
yourself.
Okay.
And you wake up and you've got this. You're just hardstock in bronze 2. and you want to climb out as quick as possible. He's basically asking how do Bronze 2 climb as quick as possible.
Pretty much.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
but then that's not the same as
those are different questions.
Goldenglue could be like, well, I'll play Zed every game, but I wouldn't recommend that for Bronze 2.
Goldenglue is a special snowflake. You can have a special snowflake answer.
Yeah,
that's true.
What's your answer?
Me, I probably play.
I bet he plays whatever he wants, and
I probably play for fun. Yeah, I'd probably play like Irelia or Akali, like something that'll keep my mental strong going through the bronze like games.
What about the fastest possible though? Because he wants fastest possible route.
Your life depends on getting into silver.
Yeah, if you make it back to Challenger with 100% win rate, then you get $1 million.
Okay, well, I probably play.
100.
So the thing is, like, bronze games are scary
and stuff.
Bronze games are scary, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking if I want to, like, I could pick Zed, Irelia, Akali, and solo kill lane like 1,000 times, but will I be able to push turrets? That's the number one thing. You got to be able to push turrets to end the game. So I'm thinking maybe I play something like Zoe or LeBlanc and just have something that I could go to a lane. Anyone who comes to me, I'll kill them, and I'll just keep taking turrets so I can actually end the game. Because I'm assuming I actually don't have teammates, right? I'm assuming they're not.
You don't
there.
really have opponents either. Let's be real.
Yeah, I just have gold bags running around. And I have to collect every now and then.
Mobility.
I think Zoe would probably be a really good one because Zoe, you can hit turrets really hard, and people will flash away from you. You pick up their flash, but like, why?
Also,
you'll kill them.
You can just make the gold bag sit there, and one of your non-teammates could pick up that gold bag. You can set it up for them.
I don't want to do that.
No. Okay, he's taking it every time.
The quick answer I would give is number one, if you're doing this, like if you're saying, hey, how do I climb? Number one rule is actually get better first. You're in Bronze 2 because you're a Bronze 2 player, so become a Silver 2 player.
Great advice.
But that has to happen.
Become a Silver 2 player, but like you will no longer be there.
But the question of how I climb is not play Zed every game. It's like you need to like learn, right? Like watch replays, like learn runes and masteries, learn item builds, like constrain your champion pool, like actually do things to get better at League of Legends, then you will climb. Like that has to be rule number one. Yes, if you're Goldenglue, this like LCS caliber mid laner, okay, well, I play you play whatever mid laner because mid has the highest agency in the game that just like is strong and you're good at, and you will just climb.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of play anything because the difference in skill is so different. So get as good as Goldenglue. And then you'll climb.
If you
I
want
definitely play a solo lane though, for sure. Yeah,
for sure solo lane. I wouldn't play.
Would not go bot lane.
Yeah.
So I would definitely play jungle, but that's just because I know jungle.
Yeah, that's fair too.
And jungle, I feel like is pretty good.
That was gonna be my
at
answer.
climbing low elo.
I think because I've played a lot of low elo games because I have a lot of low elo friends, and I've had the most success actually. Because even if you're way better than your laner, if everything is going absolutely horrible, sometimes you can't get out on the map enough to like affect it really, really quick. As a mid laner, maybe you can if you're pro, sure. But like for me at least, I can say playing scaling junglers is where I've had by far the highest win rate. So if I'm playing like Kindred or I just play Jax and I go like gank the lane, but then if you're actually just trying to play like win or die, you just tax every lane, right? You just play something that can 1v9 late game and take turrets and split push and do all that sort of thing, because you can make the game so much about you if you're playing in a side lane, because especially at low elo, people don't know how to like force objectives and group, like someone's just going to keep coming to you and you can keep killing them and keep killing turrets as long as you're like the strongest 1v1 dude in the game. Also,
I would say gank the lanes depending on where the cannons are. You go to the cannon minion.
Maximize your gold.
That's a big brain tip that I've used.
Nice.
When leveling up Smurfs, and it's like a lot of the games they don't even really notice or care that much. Like it's just one minion that you leave on the
you roll by with a dematerializer.
Yeah. I'm just like
dematerializer jungler. Hell yeah.
I've even been thanked before, like going over there to do a gank and like burning their flash, and like on the way out, I'm like, whoops, thank you for that or whatever. They're like, no flash, thanks, dude. Yeah,
that's the flash.
Like, have fun.
All right, great. What's next?
Yeah, if you're Bronze 2 though, play Volibear. Volibear is so easy to play. If you just farm all your camps to Phreak point about getting better, get high CS and just right click people on Volibear. It's easy.
Yeah, people are atrociously bad at farming in low elo. Just like learning to get CS. Yeah, it's just like you're a superhero.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next question here from Josh Dawson. He says, "What will it take to see a return of AP sports in pro play? It's been Alistar, Braum, TK, 3 splits in a row. We haven't seen AP meta support since Ardent Censor at Worlds. We've seen one Galio, a little bit of Galio, one Soraka the split.
Yeah, well, Galio's number 1 now actually. Like Galle's number 1 support in current patch, but it's obviously tank Galley.
It's tank, yeah.
So
It's
it's still tank support. Well, we had an arrow on the dive last week, and he was saying that Relic Shield regen was so high in like 9-4 that you couldn't push them out. That basically he was saying that if you can get enough lane advantage, the fact that you can't face check toward brushes later game is counteracted by you won lane and got plates. So I don't know if that's the right break point, if you agree with that as well.
No, I completely agree. Like whenever I have like a Zyra or somebody on my team, I'm like, you guys better be taking their turret, right? If I have a Zyra who like goes even or loses lane, I'm like,
we lose, it's doomed.
Why are we picking Zyra? Like, you know, like I really don't want this on my team because it just makes the mid to late game so much more complicated. When you have just like this meatball that can run around and put wards down and like check brushes that, I mean, I can't check brushes. If I check a bush and I die, like we lose the game, right?
Yeah.
So you really have to dominate lane and play that way. You need build, you know, you do the classic of where you take bot plate, you take bot turret, you take dragon, then you swap top, you take top turret, you take herald. You need to do like the full snowball if you have an AP support. And it's also hard with ball leaders. They can go TP too. Like people, like you push them out, they're going to TP back, right? And you want to have a lane dominant spell. You want something like Ignite. So how do you chunk out, you know, 2-3 pots plus Targons plus a TP back with 3 more pots, right? Like, can you really do that? Not right now.
If you set up a dive, maybe, right? Like, the whole thing is, okay, well, at level 3, like, they're at half HP and they don't have heal, so we'll for sure burst Azael out. And, like, but it puts a lot of requirements on you to push it through, so I understand why it's difficult.
Yeah. I would also say it really helps AP and squishier supports when top lane tanks are super meta and jungle tanks are super meta. Because if you already have 2 roles where most of the best champions are tanks, then it gives you that more flexibility, and it even actually balances your damage for later too.
I think in general, it's just so much about the vision game, which is something that's so much less important in solo queue. So that's like one of the things where it's like, if I'm playing solo queue all the time, I feel like Brand and Zyra are actually cheap, right?
Nami Sona are just broken. And
like these champions are,
it's absurd.
They're so good, but then in pro play, and even like if you're playing at like just like at higher levels of organized play or whatever, you know, it's getting vision is such an important part of the game, and trying to actually ward as a Nami or a Zyra is so incredibly hard. You face check almost anyone and you instantly die. So it becomes very, very difficult to actually play for vision. And that's why I think we see it less in pro. But I will say, I do think a lot of it is also people being more risk averse, because when people are playing Ezreal, Tom, Kench, you cannot tell me that like a brand can't slam that lane if your jungler is willing to play around it, right? You know, I do think that is such an extreme mismatch, you know, because brand has so much percent HP damage and Tom Kench is just like can't even fight back, you know? Like that's an example where if a team had practiced it and was willing to play around that, because you're not just opting yourself into this, you're opting your jungler into guarding you because you're going to be very gankable too, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that is the sort of lane that if you're playing like Draven Brand or whatever, or Brand Caitlyn or something, you could blast that lane so hard that it could be worth it.
Yeah.
But you'd have to have put in all the time practicing it. Your jungler would have to be playing around you, and you would have to be willing to take the risk that, oh crap, they actually TP'd on us or their jungle ganked us and we got double killed and now it's tragic.
Yeah, and I mean it's a whole team too. Like basically, you know, if you have you can't pick a volatile top matchup if you have to play around bot side the whole game. You know, like you have to your jungler has to go bot side. You know, your top laner probably will have to leash, and it affects the whole map in ways that's kind of hard to see outside the bot lane. So you're putting all your eggs in basically one basket, and it can work and it could do really well. You know, so it can also not work. You know, you could you know, it's just putting all your eggs in one basket. That's what a team wants to do. Then you can try it.
Could be smart though, right? You know,
it could be a good strategy to have, I think. But at the same time, it's going to be when it comes to playoffs, everyone ends up just picking the easiest stuff possible. You don't really want to pick the harder, more execution heavy. It's just like Maokai's up, Orianna's up, or something like that. Like, let's pick the Ornn's up.
But if you want Sneaky to win lane against Doublelift, you bring in a Nami, and suddenly Eric already wins top lane. You've got Nisqy splitting with Jensen.
What if they go even in that lane, though? Then you're like...
But then you've got a 5-0 Poppy with first turret goals, so you're trying to snowball, you know? Like, Doublelift doesn't get perfect farm when he's against Nami.
All right, with that, we are going to bring an end to this episode of The Dive. Goldenglue, we can get you out of here just in time for scrims.
Perfect. Practice.
I feel like
I'm going to school right now. It's like I'm at a meeting right now, like with the principals or something. They're like, yeah, you got class in 30 minutes.
If you want to check out Goldenglue, you can find him on Academy. It's going to be 4 p.m. tomorrow. And the next episode of The Dive is going to come out next week. Until then, stay tuned. This weekend for the LCS, we only have 2 weeks left before playoffs. So keep track of that playoff race.
Maybe we'll see Goldenglue there too.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.